Starting section 1, chapter 18 today, we're basically looking at economic reconversion after World War II, transitioning from a military-based economy to that more of a consumer-driven economy. What you all have in your possession now are two things. Number one, the chapter notes, which nothing's changed from the norm. And then number two, the objectives. Now, here's where a lot of you started looking at that and you're like, whoa, got a lot going on there. However, you fill that out, you get to use that on the test. Okay? It's in your best interest to make those as detailed as possible. Everything's from the chapter. It does flow chronological order. Okay? You don't have to fill it out, but I don't want to hear grievances when you take that test and there's 3 or 4 objectives and you don't remember anything.
We get to use this?
As in, you fill that out using your notes, and when I say objective section of the test, bam, you pull that sheet out, transfer information.
All right.
It's not required. I'm not going to collect it, but it honestly is in your best interest and would be, relatively uneducational to not fill it out, at least a few things. Okay? So that being said, we're not going to review those in class either. You have all the information, you have the exact prompts. It is your personal responsibility to make sure that they are filled out. Any questions? Wonderful, let's get rolling. Okay, what we're looking at here right now, like I said, is the economic boom. However, a few facts to start us out, it's not affecting everyone. Okay? We still have about 20% of our nation living in poverty, which is unacceptable, all of which is typically based within minority groups, Africans, Latinos, and things of that nature. Now, that being said, one of the major ideas we have here is exceptional progress, but you have to remember, not for all. Okay? That's unfortunate, but it is the progress of society, and that's just a natural reaction to a capitalist-based economy. There has to be an upper class, there has to be a middle class, and unfortunately there has to be an impoverished class. That's capitalism, though. Okay? We have a few positive things going on. The economy itself is marked by exceptional spending. Okay? Spending sprees. Morale is high. We just won a war. America is now 2-0 in world wars. Okay? America, rise to power. That being said, the government is also going to continue to stimulate with defense spending, with also public education and welfare programming. So not only is it driven by you all, but government programs is causing the economy to rise to new and exciting levels not previously seen before. Okay? Now that being said, Interstate Highway Act in 1956, $30 billion to highway development. So you need to have right here infrastructure. Now what all does your infrastructure include? We know highways, but what else does this include? Benefiting trucking and auto industries, bedroom communities. Give me an example of this. An exit town, rather. You guys have any idea of an example you might have for that? A city that has grown somewhat significantly as a result of a major highway being through. Perhaps certain industries are attracted to that region because of that road passing through. One is just one county east of us. Dundee. Now, why did Dundee grow at an exceptional rate recently? Past 10 years. Cabela's. Now, why was Cabela's planted in Dundee?
Because it's off a major highway.
Because it's right next to 23 and a road that runs really between a few different major states of the area. Absolutely. Okay, so I want you guys to have down here Dundee and Cabela's. That's an example locally of how this Interstate Highway Act, US 23, running through the area. Locally speaking, Dundee is an example of an exit town or a bedroom community that is there to basically provide a refueling service, rest, recuperation, things along those lines. Okay. Booming continued government spending for service members in a variety of areas. What we're looking at here is the Federal Housing Administration. Does anyone know what type of loan their parents' mortgage is? You ever heard them talk about it, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, like for example, mine is a rural development loan. It's just structured differently. Most of your family's mortgages are probably called FHA loans.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that right there.
Yeah.
Okay, or when you get to the position where you want to purchase your own house, that's probably the loan structure that you all pursue. Possibly. Okay, another item that's familiar and should sound familiar is the GI Bill. technical schools and universities, as well as starting your own business. Okay? Incentive. You fought in the war. Here's the country giving back to you. Okay? Some people that have no idea what they would like to do for their future will go to the military knowing that they'll have X amount of dollars to assist them with higher education, technical schools, something along those lines. My family members, several of them, for example, have done that. They want to go to college, they're not sure. Instead of spending thousands upon thousands of dollars for a degree that they don't even know if they want yet, they pursued the military first. Yeah? Whoop. Come on. Vitality of the economy, remarkable. Now that means the strength and the rate at which it's growing is what we have there. Production of goods and services doubled as we engage in consumerism. Now what does that mean? Consumerism.
Like buying.
Buying a lot of stuff, but what kind of stuff are we buying?
Luxuries, like
luxury items. Very good. It's basically, when you look at consumerism, it's that want versus need. Okay? A lot of your friends, maybe your family as well, will tell you as you're going out shopping, do you really need this or do you just want it? Things that you need: shelter, clothing, food, the necessities to sustain life, things that you want, giant TVs, the best and fastest car, Xboxes, video games, etc., etc. Okay? Many people argue, I need video games. You don't need a video game to live. You want it to be happy. That's the major difference there. And that's what we really have going on. Now, unemployment and inflation rates are staying below 5%. Anyone familiar with what our rates are now?
Like 9.5 for unemployment, correct? Isn't it like a 9?
Actually,
7.7. Okay, so write that down. That's as of this morning. Anyone know inflation rate? Okay, 2%. Now that being said, you hear all of these negative things about the economy now. Granted, 7.7% unemployment rate is higher than 5%. Okay? But it's not to that 10% threshold, or even worse, going into like the Great Depression where you're in the teens and even the 20s. Okay? However, one thing you guys also have to remember, unemployment rates do not include those who have just given up looking for work, which is the response that a lot of people are saying. You know, your unemployment rate is falling. Yeah, we agree. But that's because, you know, this whole section of the room just gave up looking for a job. Okay?
Why don't they count those people? I don't understand.
Because
that
they're not
skew the numbers though.
They're not willing laborers attempting to enter the labor force.
But then that makes everything look better than it actually is though.
Correct. That's the problem. You see what I mean though?
Yeah.
That's the problem with that statistic as a whole. You can analyze unemployment rate, but, you know, say for example, male, female, you get married, and whomever your spouse is really wealthy and entrenched in doing what they're doing as an engineer, doctor, whatever. You don't have to work. Well, if you have removed yourself from that labor force, you are no longer participating in the job search. Thus, you are not unemployed. Does that make sense? You're choosing not to work. That's the major difference there.
Now, for the unemployment, inflation, staying below 5%, that's each one individually, right? Not
Each
like
one
combined.
individually is below 5%. Okay, which are markers that your economy is strong and expanding, or at least staying, at least stagnant at an elevated level, which is what you want as an economist, what you want as a country. Okay. Now, that being said, one final item before we transition to the next slide here: gross national product. What is that? Anyone familiar?
It helps show how your economy's doing.
It's an indicator of your economy's strength. Now that being said, so we'll label it as GNP. Anyone know the difference between GNP and GDP?
GDP.
Because you probably have heard of that one more.
Yeah, it's gross domestic product.
Gross domestic product versus gross national product. Now does anyone know, like I said, the difference though?
Domestic is within us.
Within what?
Within America.
Within the continental United States, to include states that are actually within the Union, absolutely. So GDP, domestically speaking, the state's economy is the federal economy in the country. Now what's the difference between national product?
The whole country as a whole.
The world.
It includes U.S. businesses engaged economically overseas.
So it's whoever we're engaged with.
Absolutely. Okay, that's something you might want to write down. Domestic, within our boundaries. Within the states themselves, the Union itself. National product includes investments overseas. Either your company is operating in another country, for example, like my microphone being made overseas. Nike, many of your clothing companies have businesses overseas producing. Okay, that would be included. Not just the purchasing of, that sweatshirt at Dick's Sporting Goods or MC Sports or whatever. Excellent. Okay, now, we must transition. We know the economy is doing well, with the exception of that 20%. How do we transition from a defense organized and emphasized economy to a consumer-based one? An icon of this is the changing of Truman's paperweight. Okay, from that modeled after a gun to modeled after a plow. We're going from defense back to industry and agriculture, which is an important idea for our economy. And that being said, the government is going to go ahead and try to make sure that inflation stays low, because if inflationary rates are high, prices also rise and people tend to struggle. We're going to go ahead and create, during the war, the Office of Price Administration, OPA. OPA will solve your problems. Okay, it's a positive. However, we don't really need it. Okay, the body of government is there. It's existing and at least statistically analyzing your economy, yet it's not needed. Okay, because of that consumerism, as well as defense spending. With that being said, like I said here, with consumerism, the Cold War, obviously we're in an arms race against who?
Soviet Union.
The Soviet Union. Very good. Okay, you got to remember that Russia doesn't exist. It's the Soviet Union. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics is what that means, if you ever want to know. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR. Okay? That being said, as long as we are engaged in the Cold War with them, we need more destroyers. We need better weapons delivery systems. We need better weapons as a whole, more devastational, such as the hydrogen bomb. Okay? Transitioning from just a purely nuclear warhead, uranium or plutonium fueled, to a hydrogen-based one. Which, if you ever watched the test video on that, whoa, you could think we didn't drop that one. Okay? That being said, all of these positives, we want to keep this going. So we're going to go ahead and create a basic model of the credit card. Now, unfortunately, with this, there's that phenomenon called purchasing on margin. Okay, buying things you don't really have the money for, but you intend to pay back to that bank or the lender, whomever it is. We've done that before, and it got us involved with something pretty bad. What was that called?
The Great Depression.
The Great Depression, very good. One of the major causes of that was purchasing with credit. Okay, the Great Depression. And buying on margin. But you have to remember, though, banks weren't as restricting. They didn't really analyze what exactly your intent was or how you're going to pay back. For example, Mr. Schlitt might have applied for a $100,000 loan to start his business, and he's been employed with wherever he works for a week. Okay, how do we know he's not going to get fired on Tuesday? We don't know that, but we trust him. That was the problem before. Now we need history of employment. We need, a business model. For example, if you're trying to start a business, how are you going to actually repay us? I'm not going to give you $100,000 without some kind of plan there. Okay? And remember, of all things, when you ride alone, you ride with Hitler. Okay? Any questions thus far? And remember, for those of you catching up, be patient. This will be available on YouTube in a couple hours. Baby boom. How many of your parents do you know were born during this time period?
Right at 1960.
Okay, not many. This is going to become fewer and fewer. My parents were. They're baby boomers. Now that being said, during this time period, increased by 40 million citizens. The 1950s, of that 40 million, in a decade, 28 million people are born.
Holy.
That is a phenomenal birth rate. Now, and this is maybe where you might hear of the baby boomers. When you talk of Social Security, some people are saying, it might not be available for you because the baby boomers are going to all but dry that out. Because all of those people, that 40 million, are elders now. They're elderly. And they're starting to draw from Social Security. Well, if, for example, during this time period, say the average family size was 4 to 5 kids, how many of your situations at home involve 3 or 4 other brothers and sisters? Not many. People are having fewer children. Okay, so where are these funds going to come from? That's that just ongoing question. I don't know.
So why are they having so many kids?
Well, during that time, it's the American dream. That's one of those things you want. And you're going to see this with Levittown. You want the white picket fence. You want the Labrador Retriever. You want the nice, happy house. And just you envision your holiday season. You have all of your kids on the rug and the fireplace and your coffee mug. And gee whiz, Lucy, I love life. Okay, if you think about it though, that's how all those movies are set up. It is, and we laugh. But again, now that's not really a reality for some. Okay, if you look at your family situation, and you don't have to share this house, just think about what you have going on at home. Could your parents support 5 kids right now? Okay, that's something you need to think about. During this time too, many of the women are not working as you have today. For example, in my situation at home, if my wife didn't work, we'd have a lot fewer things. Okay? But since she does work, we live a little bit more comfortably. It's an important idea for us. Now, the maps we started with here, we're looking at the Rust Belt and the Sun Belt. Here we have the sun, and here we have the rust. Analyzing this, the reason we are moving south, a few major ideas here, and you want to write them down. Low taxes, climate, opportunities. Now, if you analyze the opportunities here, especially in defense-related industries, what is one industry that is going to define the Cold War that is located in the South? What is one industry, you guys think, our relations with the Soviet Union, that will define our relationship as a whole, and who actually is the victor of this conflict? One race, per se. NASA, absolutely. So defense related, I want you to have NASA down there.
Space.
Okay, space race.
What does NASA stand for again?
National Aeronautical Space Administration. Yeah. Okay, that being said, NASA is located in the South. Obviously, we have this elevated level of tension and conflict with the Soviet Union. We must beat them to outer space. Did we? No. They launched the first what? Satellite called Sputnik. Write that down. Sputnik. Sputnik. Now again, it's only going to last up there a few hours. And it literally just sends beep, 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 beep. But we can hear it. And that is world technology at its finest. That just comes crashing right back into our atmosphere. Okay, our first satellite was what? From the Explorer 1. Write that down. Okay, we one-up them. It lasts longer. Bam, America. What do you guys got? Okay. Now the next major event that's going to occur in the space race will be what?
The first man on the moon.
The first man on the moon. So who's going to get to the moon first? Now obviously there's a great wealth of conspiracy. Did the United States stage this using some giant laboratory and housing in southwestern United States to say, Soviet Union, you're wrong, we got it before you, back down? That's your determination. I don't believe that, though. There are documentaries, if you're interested in that, historychannel.com. That being said, the Rust Belt. Now, look at where we're at here.
In the middle.
Look at Michigan.
Bam.
A lot of rust there. Now, this is where you can see the transitioning. Just look at the evolution of Detroit and Flint. Okay? During the time period we're looking at here, basically the 40s, 50s, and 60s, Detroit and Flint are booming. Okay? Detroit was originally in the top 10 by population per capita of all cities in the United States as well as the globe. Would you believe that if you went there now?
No.
Absolutely not. Okay? Because all of these businesses that are occurring there, for example, my dad used to work for Dana Corporation making transmissions for the auto industry. They were based out of Indiana. But Arizona, they don't have to pay that kind of taxation down there. Minimum wage is lower down there. Speaking on a pure business mind, why would you keep your business in a state that's costing you more money? If you're looking to expand... If you're looking to expand your profit margins, you move it somewhere where you have to pay your labor force less and you have to pay the government less. Okay? It's sad, but that's the business cycle. Okay? Now that being said, look at Toledo as well. It used to be a huge component of the auto industry. They're struggling to maintain their Jeep Chrysler plant. Okay, the Willys Jeep, which was so huge in the global wars, produced out of Toledo, which is why if you ever go to the zoo, you see Willie's Parkway, named after the Willie's Jeep.
When was the capital of Michigan changed?
When was the capital of Michigan
Well, because
changed?
it used to be Detroit.
It used to be in Detroit in the mid 1800s.
Okay.
It was moved to Lansing. It used to be in Detroit because of its location on the Seaway. But yeah. Yep. Anyways, that being said, the Rust Belt, like I said. Okay? Any questions? The other major item that I want you to have with this map is called the Atlantic Corridor, which basically, if you look right there, is where a significant portion of the nation's population is, and I want you to write that down right here, next to this section, Atlantic Corridor.
Was that have anything to do with the original 13 colonies?
Absolutely. But also, if you just look at 13 colonies, absolutely. But if you also just look at its access to the sea, at our major trading partners at the time, being Europe.
Britain.
What?
I was adding.
Any questions? Now, many of you were also asking, when did this massive population movement from the Southerners, the African American Southerners, to the Northerners happen? Right here. Okay, immediately after the war. They're moving north for jobs. Now, unfortunately with this, when you have this population explosion, say you have only, you have 10 job openings and 50 applicants, you stand a greater percentage of receiving said job than after this. Now, instead of 50 applicants, there are 500. Okay, who's that going to benefit? Fixed amount of jobs, hundreds of applicants.
Business owners.
Business owners, absolutely. Okay, you, the hardworking person who's lived in the North all of those years, are now going to struggle. So where are you going to move?
Down south.
You're going to move to the Southwest specifically. Okay, another thing to consider. How many of you have ever been to the Southwest, Arizona, New Mexico? What's the climate like?
Ooh, very hot.
Yeah, could you survive down there, realistically speaking, given your lifestyle now, without air conditioning?
No.
No.
Okay.
There's no way.
Your personal lifestyle without air conditioning? No. Many people would be like, yeah, I have no interest in that. That's another item here that I want you to have next to where it says climate up here. Add in air conditioning, AC. One of the sole technological elements that's going to found the Southwest. Okay? How many of you struggle at home, when your folks say you can't turn on the AC until it's 95 out? Yeah, it makes you cranky, you're like, oh no. Okay? Yeah, you sure life is down.
That's what I do. Way in the
Save
back.
for here, but you live there all year. Now, this, like I said in the pretest, is one of my most favorite sections of this chapter. Levitt towns. The systematic approach to suburbanization. Suburbanization meaning, what does that mean?
Like
Living
some
in
suburbs being formed.
Yeah.
Suburbs being formation being a process of the suburbs, people moving out of the cities. Okay, whereas beforehand, during the wars and pre-war, we had urbanization, quite the opposite. With that being said, William Levitt, mass-produced, low-priced family homes. The economy's booming. You've had this dream. Maybe you're living with your folks at the time, you just graduated high school, you want your own house. Let's do this. Purchase a house. Okay, massive construction project, low interest rates, what type of mortgage? This administration was created.
Off.
No, the what's the FD?
Federal Housing Administration.
FHA, okay? Make sure you have that down there, because that's almost all of the mortgages that are going to be handed out during this time period. Unfortunately, not made available to black Americans. With that being said, we have all of this progress, all this positivity just presented to you. Here's your house. American dream. Picket fence. So you're going to see you can choose the trees you want, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever. But if you're black, you're not allowed. Progress ends. Okay?
Women were allowed?
It's family homes.
Okay. but-
Family homes, yeah.
Yeah, no, but what?
Not single or domestic partnerships, if that's the route you're going. Okay, that being said, racially segregated. Pros here, we have some pros here, pros and cons. Advocates claim it represents the American dream. Now, all of these things that you are fighting for in life, okay, all these wonderful things, like I said, go to college, get a job, be happy, have a boat, have a truck, who cares? I don't know. Have anything that makes you happy is your American dream. During this time period, it would be just to exist comfortably in a house. is all these immigrants, all of these struggling, impoverished people in society really want. There it is, right here. This is your opportunity. Cleaner environment. Look at, like I said, if you've ever been to major cities, for example, I work with NASCAR in Fontana, California. They have smog warnings where they don't recommend that you go outside because of pollution.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's intense to me. I'm looking at, like, they have this beautiful mountainside at that track there. You can only, and locals say you can see it about 15, 20 days a year.
That's cool.
What? You know what I mean? We don't have that pollution issue that California, Southern California specifically has. But during this time period, you don't want to be involved in that at all. Less crime. Okay, look at, again, you're traveling to Comerica Park. Looking at a most recent example. How many of those buildings look like you just want to buy that and start a business?
About 5%.
Yeah, less than 10%. Graffiti, broken windows, you know, things that you don't really identify as a positive and safe environment. Here's your opportunity. Get out of there. Okay? You could almost compare that in our county specifically, living in downtown Adrian versus Clinton or even Tecumseh. Some people will be like, you know, I like Adrian, I'll go shop there, I don't want to live there. And a lot of the reasoning is crime and the demographic. It's unfortunate, but it's how the city's structured. Okay? Now, critics, however, claim destruction of the environment. Look at all this land here. That had to be cleared, trees had to be removed, the land itself had to be leveled. That destroyed that whole multiple acre environment that was already existing. What are you doing? Other than wrecking the world. Okay? Conformity is something many people don't think about. You are leaving a culturally diverse urban center to have a cookie-cutter lifestyle that everyone else around you does. For example, in Tecumseh, I'm not sure the exact street, there's a street on the southern portion of the city where almost every house on that road looks the exact same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
It's literally like, it's this almost the same exact square footage. There's 2 windows on the bottom, one up front,
It's like mall.
and you have a one-car garage. That's exactly what you have here. Do you want to be unique, or do you just want to have a house?
Just have a house.
Well, that's the decision many people are making. That's why they'll go to these. It's cheap. Okay, live your dream. Then you're looking around, and how many of you have ever seen the movie Pleasantville?
Never heard
Where
of it.
everyone is the same. It starts black and white and it ends in color as people, you know, find themselves. But it's all, you know, it's America. We all have a dog. We all, you know, go to the same school. We all go to the same church. We all shop at the same grocer. It's just, you know, life is great and it's black and white. Do you want to be part of that?
No.
Is the thing that you have to ask yourself. Economic and cultural qualities of urban areas, like I said, it disposes of all. Any questions before we start the film? Like I said, I want you guys to pay attention to, you know, and know that this is a documentary-based advertisement. It's going to be corny. You're going to be like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like the children's books, Dick and Jane,
Oh, yeah.
like C-Spot Run. Like it's just stuff like, okay, moving on. No, they're going to go with that. Okay? Like I said, try to keep laughter down to a dull roar. This is awesome, though.
Today, at the eastern extremity of the state of Pennsylvania, a remarkable construction project is transforming the face of the countryside. The area below will, within the next 2 years, be the 10th largest city in the state of Pennsylvania. A busy community of 70,000 people living in a city which was completely planned before the first house was built. Today, almost 1/5 of Levittown, Pennsylvania is already completed and occupied. 3,600 families
You
are
look
now
how
making their homes
almost
in the new
everything
city.
is the same.
Levittown is 65 miles from New York City. It lies just west of the Delaware River, 25 miles northeast of Philadelphia.
Relatively good
The new
location.
city,
If
which
you want
is
to go to the
today
city.
springing to life on the banks of the Delaware, was planned by the Levitt brothers, who also built Levittown, Long Island. The younger brother, Alfred Levitt, is the architect. responsible for the overall planning of the new community.
When my family began to conceive the city of Levittown in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, we made up our minds not to duplicate one basic error that we find in all the other cities, namely that the individual occupant is lost in its bigness. How we went about it was to plan small sections of the land, put a circumferential drive around it, give it a name that followed some plant like Magnolia Hill, where mass plantings of magnolias would positively identify a pride in the occupants in Magnolia Hill.
Adrian Maples.
The people
Same
who
idea.
went to Magnolia Hill will co-share a school and a swimming pool and a ballpark. They'll be encouraged to have a ball club that will compete for medals and many other clubs. In this way, we hope that the individual will not be the occupant of a big city, Levittown, but rather an individual well known to his neighbors in Magnolia Hill.
The building of a house in one day is shown during the
Look, this
next
is remarkable.
45 seconds by stop-motion photography.
One day build these houses. Granted, this is a very basic model. I wouldn't have your luxurious amenities that you have at home.
There's so many people working on it though.
Probably sold before it was full.
These are the 36 men who built this house. Another day, another 40 houses.
I said, be patient with the film.
This is one of 4 models which are now being built throughout Levittown. The complete price is $10,500.
And take into consideration the strength of the economy and your average salary for this time.
The 4 models vary slightly in overall design, but each has the same number of rooms. 2 bedrooms, a large living room, part of which can be converted to a 3rd bedroom, kitchen, bath, and dining space, and 5 closets. Each house has a fireplace, centrally located. Every few weeks, on allocation day, prospective homeowners pick the site for their house, as well as the model. Each house is definitely contracted for by a customer before construction begins. Each buyer has his or her own reasons for selecting a certain location rather than another. This woman is intent on having a house on a street named Butterfly Lane. Her husband, who prefers a different site, finally gives in.
Well, give me what she wants, that's all I can say. She wants this one right there, right? Betty got the bill. Whatever I said, I have to find the end of the street before. That's the way you do it.
Butterfly way.
So you get to pick where you live and everything. That's cool.
Even at this stage of its growth, Levittown is beginning to look lived in. A strong community spirit is
See
developing.
again the American identity here when you're looking at this stuff.
Well, City of the Levittown Civic Association. I know you're just getting settled, but I'd like to welcome you here on behalf of the community. Have you any problems that you've run into that I might be able to help?
The newcomer quickly becomes accustomed to the quick pace of Levittown.
I'll have her stop off for you if you like. Oh, we're always doing things like that around here. It goes on all the time. Did you get all your things yet? This is the first one. Thank goodness that's all over with.
The great increase in the number of students has prompted a 2-shift day at schools throughout the county. All the schools in this corner of eastern Pennsylvania are overcrowded, and new students are arriving each day. Here, Mrs. Theodore Jack brings her daughter Susan to Worcester School for her first day of class since the family moved to Levittown from Philadelphia. Levittown already has its own police force.
Now this is great.
Here the patrolman is much more concerned with problems which relate to the rapid growth of the community. Patrolman Templeton finds that lost dogs and children take up a fair amount of his time.
His name is either Levine or Laban. You look it up, please. What's your name? We have a Levine, 1178 Shepherd Lane. Oh, try. That's what we got. Lost kids, lost dogs, a few motor violations, but no crime.
That's advertisement at its finest. Your dog gets lost is the most critical issue you're going to face in life, compared to living out of fear that you might get robbed. It's something to consider.
No child ever remains lost in Levittown for very long.
Does the kid not know, like, where his is because they all look the same, or?
Come on in, Bill. There's going to be a lot of things you're going to have to explain to me. Ladies and gentlemen, this is William Levitt, who heads the largest home building firm in the world. Bill, all this must have taken an awful lot of doing.
Well, man, creating this city presented a challenge unlike anything we ever encountered before. Wherever we built in the past, we found local government experience meeting the problem of our community.
He's just a silhouette.
But here in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, we found local services on the level of 1900. It was just like Long Island 50 years ago. There was no water, no sewers, no highway department, no adequate police department, same for the fire department, right down the line.
All the things that many people need to feel secure.
But absolutely no. Everything had to be done at once. We had to build houses for people to live in. We had to build a water system, a sewer system. We had to set up a police department, put in roads, erect streetlights that people could feel secure. What we've come out with is something new in city planning. When we finish here, which should be in another 2 years, we'll have a city about the size, let us say, of Atlantic City or Galveston.
The generation which is being raised in this scientifically planned community is taking this new way of life in its stride. Levittown, Pennsylvania is a prototype of a new kind of 20th century American living. The fastest growing city in the country, Levittown already has a population of 12,600. Or rather, 12,601.
Yeah, that is a joke.
Okay.